I'm really excited for today's session. This is a unique session with something special to present that's totally different than any of our other webinar speakers have talked about. And what I mean by that is in our other webinars, we've had really great knowledge about like leadership moves being shared, but today our speakers are actually going to show you what they used in this Kagan Walkthrough Tool, and there's going to be a lot of information around that. Our guest speakers today are leaders from Osborn School District, and the topic is Kagan implementation and look for tools. Our guest speakers for today, we have three for you. You're getting a triple dose right here around this turn of the end of the year. A lot of things going on. What a special session to have three excellent leaders presenting for you today. We have Abby, who is the Chief Officer for Learning and Equity. And something exciting happening for Abby right now is Abby's a proud parent of a 10-year-old boy who's getting himself up every morning to prepare for cross country. That takes a lot of self-motivation. That's excellent. Our second speaker for today is Alexis, and Alexis is the curriculum specialist for language acquisition. Something exciting happening for Alexis right now. Also a proud parent of two children. One of those children is now a freshman at Arizona State University, so that's really exciting. And our third speaker for today is Melissa. Melissa is a curriculum specialist for data and assessment. And continuing with this theme of being a proud parent, Melissa's exciting thing happening is that with Melissa's three children, they've been exploring the national parks, most recently Yosemite and Zion, and they've seen some really cool things. So what they're going to share with you today is all about their walkthrough tool. And with no further ado, let's bring them on screen. I'm going to turn it over. I believe Abby is going to go first.
All right, thank you so much. We are thrilled to be with all of you, and there's something really powerful about being asked to not only reflect, but share about your journey. And so we have put a lot of time and effort into our work, and I think we have gained that much more clarity by putting together these slides for you. So we're excited to share. I'm just going to start by sharing a little bit about who we are, because so much of, I think, of our work is grounded in just who we are as a district, who we are as leaders. And so the next couple slides will just give you a sneak peek at our district and who we are. So we like to say that we are in the heart of Phoenix, Arizona, so central Phoenix, which we live in a valley. We're surrounded by beautiful, beautiful mountains on all ends. We are a small but mighty public school district serving around 2,400 students. We are officially Osborn School District number 6 because we were founded in 1879. We were the 6th school district to open here in Phoenix. And we are home to 5 elementary schools and 1 amazing middle school. Here is just a beautiful peek at our 6 schools, beautiful campuses. For those of you that are not from Phoenix, you can see kind of just the different way they're constructed. So much open space and opportunity for students to learn outside. We're proud to serve 43 languages. Some of our pride points lie in our dual language program, which has been running for many, many years. And we continue to grow all the amazing parts of dual language. We have recently opened up a Montessori school that is also dual language, and we're exceptionally proud of our Montessori and dual language programs. I think that last bullet describing just the innovation that lives in our small district, being a small district, we're really able to kind of jump on those new and exciting ideas and move forward with maybe a little more speed and pace than some of our bigger districts. And so I think that was important for us to highlight as we talk about our Kagan journey. You can see our mission and vision, as well as our core values. And one thing we're really proud of that came from our most recent strategic plan are these core values. And the next slide, which let's pop to right now, we can, I think, connect every single one of them to this journey that we're on with Kagan. And the quote you see there really connects to our core value of equity and why we chose as an entire school district, from preschool all the way up to 8th grade, to really devote ourselves and lean into these practices, is really captured in the quote from Dr. Kagan, as well as the accountability that we are holding ourselves to with this plan, being connected to integrity. And from there, we are honestly anxiously and just excitedly waiting for our mid-year data, because we're expecting to see some growth, given all the work that we've put into it. But I think my two most favorite core values are the relationships and joy. And all of you on this field, on this call, know the power of Kagan in terms of building those relationships. But I'll end my brief introduction just talking about joy. And I think we've all been able to experience the joy that Kagan structures bring. And quickly, we've had several different district professional developments where we bring all of our teachers together. And the most recent one we had, where we've embedded Kagan structures in for our adult learners, we all, as presenters, came together after to reflect. And I think we realized how, at this point in our journey, how easy it felt and much less mechanical to build in the structures, and how much joy we were able to observe on the faces of our teachers as they engaged in their learning through the use of structures. So I'll stop there with this idea of joy. And I'm going to pass it to Alexis at this point, who is going to speak to how our Kagan implementation journey really aligns with our focus on instruction.
Hi, so aligned with our core values is really also a strength of ours as we've been going through the process of creating our core values and really adopting them in a way that we're living them out every day. Another big strength of ours is our tool through NEIT, the National Institute for Excellence in Teaching. It's our rubric that we use for our teacher observations. And so we've really been focused on using this rubric to push past proficient teaching to exemplary teaching. And so we really wanted to ground ourselves in the things that we really care about and the things that we do well, which our core values and our rubric for teachers really helps guide our thinking. And so with the NEIT rubric, they use data from over 9 states, 5,000 teachers to really show that relationship between a teacher's observation scores and student growth scores. So with the next point, you'll see that a 3 would be a proficient student growth, and a 3 would be a proficient teacher practices on an observation. But as the teacher continues improving in their practices, the student will continue improving in their learning growth. And we know with so many of our students being, many of our schools are Title I schools, as you've seen, with all of the languages that our students speak, many of our students are learning English as a second language. And so we do have gaps that we need to fill. And so even making 1 year's growth for our students is not going to be enough to close that gap. And so we want to make sure that we're teaching at an exemplary level, so our students are making that growth to close that gap over time. The issue that we were facing, though, with our rubric is that even though it's very explicit as far as what good teaching is, how to make that come to life and bring those practices was a little bit abstract when we would go in to give feedback on observations and in the classroom. And so we knew those indicators of those highly proficient, when you see it, you know it, but then explaining it to a new teacher, a teacher that really wants to move from proficient to exemplary, was a missing piece. And so just explaining this also to our teachers and as our why are we moving towards Kagan? We know that as teacher observation scores go up, student growth scores go up. So we want to give you all the tools and development so that you can be the best teacher that you can be for your students. On this next slide, we used this image to really make it come to life. And with the next two quotes, we introduced these ideas that exemplary growth advances students towards proficiency, and that our rubric that we know and use for our observations really define those practices. But the Kagan structures give us those exemplary practices that we can use in our everyday instruction. So it's not something that we're doing, for an observation. It's something that becomes a routine that our students and our teachers are used to using every day, both for building relationships and also in our academic content. And so this is our timeline. So our 6 schools, some of our schools had actually already had Kagan training back in the day, starting in 2010. But some of those practices had stayed with teachers who have stayed over the years. We've had new teachers join us, and some of it had kind of waned over time. And so we definitely still had everyone join us for our reboot in July. And we had the 4-day training. We had 30 teachers and leaders from different campuses, different areas, grade levels, and we implemented this fall. And so we had that commitment then to incorporate those structures at all levels. And we definitely got that commitment from our folks there, but also from our principals of how we're going to roll this out, and that it wasn't just a one and done. This is a timeline of where we want to be in 3 years. And so we have our professional learning plan that we thought about, how do we roll this out to the entire district? What are our targeted structures that we're going to be focused on? We learned so many where our heads were spinning, but we wanted to make sure that when we rolled it out to the district, that if people wanted to take on more structures, they could, but we had those, just like we have our essential standards, we have our essential structures that everyone really needed to know well and became part of their classroom routines. And so then thinking of that, a big thing for us with our rubrics is also that transfer. Are we seeing the transfer from the professional development and from the coaching into the classroom? Do we see that classroom transfer to student outcomes? And so definitely wanted to measure those connections along the way with the tool. Our principals have also been asking us for more data. And as we're moving towards student-focused outcomes, we are looking at data to really point us, are we moving in the right direction? Where do we need to tweak? Where do we need to focus more on? We always go back to this quote that leaders go first. And so we made a commitment as a district team that when we are leading, whether it's a professional development district-wide, a small group meeting, a cluster meeting for our instructional coaches, that we are going to become experts as well in Kagan, and that we're going to incorporate it in all of the different gatherings that we have. We made that commitment with our principals, and they were excited. They created, we had them write it down, so it's locked in there. We can refer back to those slides and say, well, we said we were going to do this. And they met with their leadership teams, their instructional coaches, to then set out a plan about where they were in the process and what they wanted to do this year with their professional development, and how they could lean on us then to support them as well in that journey. And so they have weekly teacher professional development where they may or may not be focusing on Kagan, but Kagan is always woven in to those professional development opportunities as well. And at the end of the day, at the heart of all of this is the classroom and the student. So we really want to make sure that transfer is going down to the student level, and that students are able to engage in rigorous academic conversations through Kagan, and that it's just second nature, that it's, they know the structures, they're able to quickly move into them and really dig into those higher DOK levels so that they are able to produce the oral language in English, the academic language of their standards, as they're orally rehearsing what they're then going to read and write. And these are just some of our pictures of our summer work, and it was so joyful. Big shout out. We call her Kagan Kim, our trainer. She was just amazing. We were, every day, even though our brains were tired, we were just so excited to learn alongside her. And all of our questions every day, we'd come up with more questions about how to make this Osborn, how to really make this fit with the way that we think and that we do things, because we do also use the PLC model, which is that idea of, you don't make people buy in because then they can buy out. We really want it to live within our core values and in a strengths-based way of saying, this is who we are. These are things that we already do, and that we know that this is just going to come second nature, because these are the things, these are our goals, these are our values, and this is just going to make us be better in the things that we already are passionate about. And so with our time with Kim, we learned so many structures, but these are the mats that everyone took away to put in their classrooms, that everyone answers both with pairs and with teams. And so knowing that we all had this really strong foundation, then these were the structures that we wanted to make sure that everyone in the district knew, and that they could go to the folks that had went to the trainings and get more information, and that we were going to do district-wide PD on these structures. And that was the goal for this first year of rollout. Then we asked our principals and talked to our teams about their professional development calendars and asking them for these days. And so they have jam-packed schedules with testing and their own professional development and their goals for their schools. And so they graciously agreed to give us 4 days out of the year, aside from their grading days and all the PLC work that we're doing, to really focus on Kagan. And if these are the structures that we're going to focus on, you can see the ones that were highlighted are the ones that we're focusing on that day, and the ones that are checked marked later are the ones that we've already done and we're just reviewing. And so then that question led us to, okay, so we're gonna spend all this time as a district team preparing this and planning this, rolling it out, but how will we measure the transfer? How do we make sure that it's not just a PD that we did in August, but how do we measure that full implementation, and not just this year, but in years to come?
This is really great. I feel like we're about to get into some really meaty stuff. What I want to check for understanding on in this slide before we move on is the dates that we see at the top. Are these days where the leadership team is going through classrooms looking for these structures that are highlighted? Mm-hmm. And then the highlighted structures, the ones that are being looked for on that specific day, and the purple check mark is an indication that we've already checked for it, but we still want to see it. Or what would be the function of the purple check mark?
Thank you for that clarifying question. So these days are the days that we're doing district-wide professional development. So we're bringing together all of the schools on this day. And we are meeting with grade levels to go over the structures, to practice the structures, and then plan out structures for their classrooms. And then afterwards is when we go visit their classrooms and use the Look For tool. So this day is a learning day, an hour and a half that our schools have committed to spending with us as district leaders to learn these structures.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alexis.
You're welcome. All right, so we are fully in phase 1 of our Kagan implementation timeline. And so moving forward, I'm going to pass it on to Melissa, who will dig into the actual Look For tool.
Yeah, I did see a question just come in about that. So we're excited to dig into it with you. First, we are going to talk about a little bit about those best practices. And I saw Dr. Kagan even threw in a question about what are those exemplary best practices. And so it was really exciting work to come up with the Look For tool, because it really brings to life what those best practices mean from our teaching and learning evaluation rubric. And so an example for you guys is grouping. I know you can't see it, but grouping is one of those pieces, one of those indicators under the instruction domain. And in grouping, it says things like students are held accountable for their work. And so we know that that's a best practice. And we know teachers want to do that. But like, what does that really look like in practice? It also mentions heterogeneous grouping. And so just knowing what that really means was really exciting, because when you dig into Kagan, it really gives you the how. It's almost like those best practices on our rubric are a little bit of a how, but mostly a what. And when it comes to so many of them, full Kagan cooperative learning implementation does hit a lot of those. And then again, on the further like exemplary side, not just even proficient. And that's where we're really shooting to. So we also call it, so you might have, it's a little interesting, the look fors. It's a walkthrough tool. And we decided to frame it as a look fors tool because we really wanted it to be strengths based and to celebrate any movement toward those best practices and toward the implementation of Kagan cooperative learning. And so there's just a little image of it on this screen, but we're going to dive into it further. And so each piece, though, is what you'll notice. So there are 4 main areas of the look for tool. And what you'll notice is each piece is a very small piece that isn't even necessarily Kagan fully yet, but it's like a building block to get there. And that's because we really wanted to celebrate growth. And so as we introduce those structures, those everyone answers structures that we're really targeting, we also wanted to find a way to celebrate like any movement and almost like a cultural and social like integration of the practices. So here's an example of the items on the look for tool at the beginning. And the way we introduce this with our leaders, with our principals, and our instructional coaches is we had them connect these to the areas of our evaluation rubric. I'll just give you a couple of seconds to read over and see if you're noticing what I just mentioned about the complexity of the different things that we're hoping to see in classrooms. And so some of these things, I did see a question drop in about, is this from Kagan or is this district created? So it is district created, but there were pieces that we found in the Kagan book and through just the website. And I do think so some of these directly came from that. And then we just modified them a little bit to also match with, again, our best practices that we shoot for. And really where the learning we knew that they were going to be part of this year. And so you'll notice, again, just that there's even walkways, there's clusters. So I saw so many of you guys put in like teams and groups of 4, and then we do get there, but it even goes through pairs first. Because if you can't, so we can do the everyone answers pair structures. And then as we get more comfortable with those, even moving into teams.
What I love about what I'm seeing already is these items that are on the look for tool. Some of them are very similar to our action plans at the end of the workshops. So like the end of CL Day 1, all teachers get an action plan. It's like a good sturdy document that's meant to be a guide for them what to implement. And y'all have turned that into a gentle accountability piece for leadership to use. So love that usage and what you've taken and pulled other things in, not just from the action plan.
And the next 2 pieces that are going to come in are going to be the data, actually. So there's our baseline data. And so it's really interesting from a data perspective, when you look and see, again, the more simple, 93% of the classrooms we walked into were arranged in a way, that students were at least visibly grouped. So we still have a tiny bit of work to do there, or at least we did at the beginning of the year, right? But you really see those simple ones most people are doing. And then as it gets more complex and more into actual Kagan cooperative learning and implementation of that, there were less. And then our data that's just actually still coming in is going to come up next. And so I'll give you a second, also pay attention to the percentages, because we did have more people participating going into classrooms to do the look for tool. So we have more numbers. So just kind of keep an eye on the overall shape of the graph, but also those percentages coming in. It's really actually hard for me to not do a Kagan structure right now about this, like something about what you notice. I will, we're getting close on our time, but you can notice even just the charts. I know that seems, it might be like a small thing, but really they're also going up over time. And so you can really, it's not like they just threw them on the wall because we asked them to. It's just something we did, but it's also something that's just happening more naturally. And I know, let's keep going because there are more. I don't get stuck.
Well, I want to check for understanding here before, maybe it's for my own benefit, but I think there might be some others that are wondering too. When I see on this the top data set, pair roles AB are visible, and I see 40.6% here. How accurate is it to look down at the bottom graph or data set and see pair roles AB are visible? Now it's grown to 58.8%. These are two different time representing two different times. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the first data set was our baseline. And so that was, we did ask them, I don't know the exact date, but I think it was done by September. We start really early school here in Arizona. So we started actually, I think July 31st. So that cutoff was by September. And then this second round is actually still going. They're supposed to be visit every classroom in the district by December 10th. So that way we can look at the data with our leaders and reflect.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
And so here's the second part. It's the teacher look force. Just want to do like a rally read or something here. So you'll notice it's very similar. Wait time, which is so important. Refocus signal, so important for teachers, just with that control for the foundational. But you'll see that they get more complicated as they go. It's also been really fun leading a lot of the PD in professional development, all the meetings we do, because having this look for tool is even a way for us to reflect on our own practices and for even like our instructional coaches and our principals and even our teachers to be like, oh, you forgot your copycat gambit. And I'm like, oh, I did. Or you forgot your, you're like your signaling at the end. And it's been a way that like, we're able to be vulnerable in a way that's actually moving us forward in a really healthy way. And we're all growing together. So having something to really point to has been super helpful. So give you a second to look. And this one is pretty different. I do see more differences here.
I'm geeking out in a great way. One thing that's sticking out to me is some of these at the bottom are really about being a masterful facilitator of Kagan structures, like modeling the structure or checking for understanding before they start. The modeling data point was super low, 9.4%, and jumps up to 35.3%. So that's, and multiple examples of that on here, but I love to see that. I love that y'all are tracking this. Amazing.
And here are student look for. So again, in that rubric, moving more to that those exemplary best practices where you have more student growth, a lot of that also has to do with student ownership. And so some of this language actually directly comes from our teaching and learning rubric. So that number 2 is actually language directly from it. And so that was another way that we were able to gain trust and gain almost like they were hungry for the Kagan cooperative learning implementation because it gave meaning to something they already cared about. All right, Erin, let's nerd out on the data. Send in the data. Okay, so on this one, we really noticed the student participation, like around those items 6, 7, 8, the way the student behaviors. Like we all know that, sometimes when you walk into a classroom, when a teacher's trying something new or trying something for the first time. And so that piece really does speak a lot to the students are expecting to understand the roles when they take on those accountability with, whether they're the AB partner, what it looks like to even turn and talk to somebody.
Thinking about kindness and respect, I see that showing up also in number 9, where students pairing up immediately and not passing up potential partners. What I think about here is like how you're being transparent with teachers on what you're looking for. So they know what the target is and they know where to aim. And when you don't have something like this, it's hard to hold people accountable. But when this is communication and clear expectation. So I just see that one went up from 3.1% to 14.7. Still got a lot of room to grow, but we're moving in the right direction, and you can track that over time. It's beautiful.
It definitely is. And that's also, you know, making sure we're catching somebody like when they're doing a stand-up hand-up pair up or a mixed pair, you know, like mixed pair share or something like that. So we might have just not also had an opportunity to see a whole lot of those. And then we have one more section left of the Look Force tool. And so this one was really important to us, even though it is a little bit less measurable or discrete. So, but we know that it's at the heart of really where we need to move to with true implementation of the structures. It's not just doing the structure, it's really getting these pieces in, which is the difference really between that group work and truly cooperative learning. And so, you know, this is just pies written out. And then the two data pieces here are really interesting. So again, for this one, you have to be really careful and look at the percentages there, but you'll see a big jump in that third one in the E and the equal participation. And Alexis didn't really mention this, but our teachers, our data on that, our teachers as a whole are proficient, like our district average is above proficient. And so they were doing a lot of turn and talks. They were hitting a lot of student to student interaction and a lot of perhaps group work or more traditional group work. But not necessarily the deeper cooperative learning. And so you really see, you know, the jump between the E, it goes from 36% to almost 80. And then also that simultaneous interaction. So the amount of students engaging at once has really jumped quite a bit as well. And we're only halfway through the first year. So we're really excited. And so here are just some examples of, there's a couple images in here. In that bottom one with the silly sports and goofy games, we have even our superintendent there playing. So that was just really fun. Here are just a couple of samples of some of the lessons in the slides that are hitting all of the pieces that we're looking for in the Look Force. And then we actually have a quote from one of the students in the class that's pictured there. So we had one of our teachers who's teaching a group of English learner students at our middle school. And so this student's looped with this teacher. He had her last year, and then she came to the institute. We did it in 4 days, but it was essentially the 5-day institute. And then he told her this. He's like, "Miss, you really upped your game this year." Like he's noticed the difference in the class. And so that was just the best comment for her. It had us just laughing, but it's also true. And just to summarize, so this is really what we found this year. Again, we're only about halfway through, but it's made all the difference. And so again, we really grounded the implementation of not just the Look Force tool, but the structures and all of it in things that we know that people were already trying to do and what they really believed in. So our core values and then our evaluation rubric. The Leaders Go First part, like Abby mentioned, has revolutionized everything. Like it's made us better. It's made us more reflective practitioners. We've also modeled mistakes in the moment and be like, "Oh man, I forgot to do this." And it's just created a culture where it's more fun for us all to get together and we're just moving faster. We're able to get through more content. We also really enjoyed the Everyone Answers posters and that we all had those because it's just something we can plan to lean into. And then even just so, Erin, you were just doing this too. So not only are we measuring progress in a way that we feel is really strengths-based, we're able to celebrate it. And that's one of the reasons we made that deadline that everybody has to get, that our Look Force tool, our next round cuts off, because we're about to do another one of our Kagan district-led PDs. And we cannot wait to dig into that data and do some of those big celebrations with our whole staff. All right, time for questions.
I love this presentation. I love how tangible this example is of leadership in action for your team there in Osborn, and with so much of this information being ready to use. I saw one that was related to who is doing the observations and with what frequency are the observations taking place.
So our baseline data, and this was a, Leaders Go First principal commitment. We, in the first month of the year, we wanted to get that baseline data. And so principals agreed, I think, to do between 8 and 10 observations in classrooms. But then for the second round, they committed to get into every single classroom so that we could have a true full picture of where we're sitting by mid-December. And as Melissa said, right before our December PD. And so it's our principals and our coaches and us, the three of us on the call right now who are doing the walkthroughs.
Thank you so much for that answer. I see another question that's about Kagan coaching, and to what extent is Kagan coaching a part of your implementation plan?
Well, we were just chatting with Christy and Aaron about that before. We are absolutely committing to to find the money, and money is tight, to do another summer institute and onboard some more teacher leaders. But I think we're also intrigued to think about how we might incorporate Kagan coaching, but we don't have any plans at this point.
Mentioning teachers moving through this implementation process. So maybe beginning, emerging teachers, becoming more proficient with Kagan, maybe becoming advanced. To what extent are teachers aware of what the targets are to get to each of those levels that you're referring to as movement? And how hard are the data points, I guess? How specific are they?
I'm glad you asked that, because that was something I feel like I missed in sharing it, and is that we are really well connected to being a small district as well, and having been a teacher and been an instructional coach. We send our kids to our school district, so we're very embedded in our community here, and so we practice radical transparency as far as this is our plan, this is our look for tool at the very beginning meeting, to say, this is our look for tool. What did you learn about today? What are things you're already doing? And so we actually, at one of our schools that had already done Kagan and maybe was thinking we already know this, we did this 5 years ago, we got it. Started off the PD with the look for tool. At our other schools that were newer to it, we ended the PD with the look for tool, but that was in the first meeting to say, this is a look for tool. It is strengths-based. It is not a gotcha. We're not expecting you to do this at the end of this month with this PD, or even the end of this year. This is a 3-year journey that we're committed to taking with you. We're also learning this. And so check off, go through and start checking off things you already do, because when you look at our rubric, these are things you're already doing. They're just things that come naturally to us. And for some of us, we look at other people and we're like, wow, she just must have been born an amazing teacher. No, these are years of practice. And so it takes away the mystery, and we're able to just do these structures and become a much better teacher at a much more advanced pace. And so I think that really helped with that transparency at the very beginning, and letting them know when we're coming in, we're looking for strengths and things that you're already doing in our first. So don't change anything. We're coming in before the training, just do what you always do, because what you always do, like Melissa said, is good teaching. We have great teachers here in Osborn. And the data that you guys all saw, we shared all of that at our second training to say this is what we saw. We saw what we thought we would see, is that we have great teachers and good things happening in classrooms. And so we've shared it with our principals, and like Melissa said, sharing it along the way. And so there's nothing, there's no negativity around it. It's all just, we're growing together.
I love that distinction that you just shared. I heard you say we have great teachers, and I think that's true of schools all across the country and the world. We have great people with a passion for learning and teaching and taking care of students. That still doesn't, two things can be true. You can be a great teacher and have all those things, and there's still moves and room for improvement in our practice. The best teachers will teach for 50 years and still learn things. And so I love that distinction that you just made, Alexis. These great leaders have been gracious enough to share their email address with you. If you'd like to take a picture of this screen and reach out to them, they would be glad to connect with you. they've put so much work into today. I feel like I should be like, you know what? Tips are appreciated but not expected. I mean, they've just done so much great work putting this presentation together for you all. And I just tremendous gratitude from us here at the Kagan team. And you're doing the real work out there and leading this. And it's so powerful to see this tangible tool in action. If anybody in the webinar knows someone that should be a part of this community, the Kagan Implementation Network, we would love to have them. And so my invitation to you is to scan this QR code, copy the link that's in your browser, send it to them in a text message or an email, and they will become part of our email list and get invitations to the live webinars and to the recordings. If you need some support from our team, if you need to get some more workshops booked so you can put an implementation plan in place, your teachers have to have that foundational knowledge of cooperative learning to begin moving through this implementation process. So where are you in your implementation journey as a school district or a school? What do you need to empower your teachers to begin moving through this process? If you scan this QR code and fill out a short inquiry form, someone from our partnership team will be in touch with you to meet your needs. I want to give just so much gratitude. Can we have a round of applause to these three tremendous leaders who have given their time, their preparation today was so evident. I'm just still blown away and so grateful to you and your time.